Good morning, seculars, or afternoon or evening, whenever you're watching. I am your host, Sunny Secular, and today we're going to be going to another. Let me start over. I am your host, Sunny Secular. This is Secular Minority Podcast. This is the podcast where everyone is welcome. There is nothing here that will stop you from joining. We welcome everyone, no matter race, nationality, if you're LGBTQ, vegan, non-believer, we're welcome everybody. You're all welcome here, and there's no shunning. Today we have a special guest. Her name is Ebony Skeptic. She is Ebony Skeptic on Twitter, and I'm going to introduce her right now. I think she's on mute. Let's see. One moment, please. There you go. I can hear you now. How are you?
Just waking up.
Okay, well, at least waking up is good, and you look marvelous. If you just woke up like that, you look good when you wake up.
Oh no, I put a little makeup on.
Okay. I just wanted to thank you for joining the podcast. And I just did your introduction. I said you were Ebony Skeptic from Twitter. And we're going to call this one, since we didn't officially have a title, we'll call this one Talking to a Skeptic. How about that?
Okay.
All right. Okay. So let's give a little introduction of yourself. Let everybody know who you are and a little background information.
Okay, so of course I'm Black. I'm from New Orleans, and I come from a family of 12, and very religious.
Wow.
Yeah, my parents still married, going on 45 years. Good for them, right?
Oh, yeah.
My parents have been, not Southern Baptist, but just always religious. They went from different denominations: Apostolic, Jehovah's Witness, then I know a non-denomination. They hopped many churches, and it's funny, today they're actually not in a church, and it's a lot worse because my dad, now he's always on the internet and he follows Alex Jones.
Oh,
so I know.
Dad, no, Dad.
Yeah, he's kind of, my parents are Black conservatives.
Okay.
And I think they're closet Trump supporters, but they'll never admit it. That's how they are. But I was a Christian for as long as I can remember, from 12 to 21 years old. And my parents, unlike the Ku Klux Klan, how they teach racism, my parents were very homophobic, and it's like their main subject was bringing homosexuals, or against homosexuals down. And when I went, they followed this one guy, and he used to go to Bourbon Street and have picket signs and kind of be like, the Bible is against gay people and all that stuff. And
right.
Yeah, so it's pretty much, my parents still have those same beliefs today, and it's not cool. My turning point was basically when I was a teenager, when I kept questioning the things in the Bible, like the stuff about homosexuals. I just thought something was wrong with that, but I was afraid, So then I ignored that, went further into, believing and learning apologetics, basically bullshit, special pleading, the Bible. And then when I turned 21, I figured I would be really dedicated. And then the more I was dedicated, I wanted to go to a theological seminary. And the more I studied, the more I was conflicted with Christianity. And then somebody was like, Jesus is not even real. Like, I had a friend, he was atheist. He said, Jesus is not real. And he kept, he was an asshole about it though. Right. He's just straight up asshole to me. And he would make fun of me. And he was like, no, seriously. He said, does Jesus have a birth certificate? He said, find something on Jesus. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to take you up on that. So I did my research and I couldn't find any, ground proof as far as claims about Jesus. And then
did he ask you like for you to find something that was outside of the Bible, or were you able to use the Bible?
Actually, he was an idiot. I actually decided to look for, in the Christian world, they call everything secular. So
Right.
I went to the secular research, because as far as within the Christian spectrum, you can't find nothing. It's just claims. It's
Right.
claims after claims after claims. So, when I went outside of that, I couldn't find nothing. So I was like, wait a minute, maybe Jesus is not real. But it was more than that. The whole thing with Black Lives Matters, when it started in 2013, people were like, why are you worshiping a God? Well, it was like, why are you worshiping the white people's God? That's not even your God. That's the God they oppressed you with. And it's like, just look at the origins of slavery and see where that came from. So I started looking at that too. So then I became angry, because every time I looked at Christianity, slavery was always affiliated with it.
Right.
And then,
as it is now.
Oh my gosh.
It's not exactly slavery, but it is oppression, and they always use what? The Bible.
Yeah, and then like there's even like old like advertisements about how the Christian slave is a slave of God, and I'm gonna literally send you that. I found it on the internet somewhere, but it's something they had in Mississippi, how the Black woman and a Black child, they're slaves, and the Bible is okay with it. They can't be freed. Their spirits are free, but their bodies are still slaves, and Jesus is okay with that.
Yeah.
And I was lit. I was like,
I'd be interested to see that.
Yeah, I'm gonna show that to you.
Okay.
And I was like, I'm done. I was like, even if Jesus existed, I was like, I'm done with Christianity. So I still believe that there was a God. So I was going around saying that, well, maybe God is a nature and all that, but I didn't have evidence for it.
Right.
So along the lines, I was like, you know what? I'm an atheist. I was like, I can't find proof of God. I can't find proof of spiritual. I couldn't find none of that. All we have is science.
Right. So, okay, let me go back to when you said about your parents were were conservative. Do you think that if they weren't as strict and against the LGBTQ community, do you think that it might have took you a little bit longer to come out of the religion, or was your aha moment at the same time?
You know what? That's a good question, because my not so much my dad, but my mom is like one of those what do you call it, those backsliding type of Christians,
Right. Uh-huh.
And because she had a lot of gay friends, and she would talk to them, and it's like, oh, I'm just say Greg's a sweetheart and all that stuff, and she loved his company and stuff. But because of the Christianity, she was like, well, Greg's going to hell because he likes men, stuff like that.
Yeah, so that old, what do they say? Love the sinner, hate the sin, and all
yes. That. Yeah, it was that. But my dad, he's the opposite. He was just so pro Old Testament, But then when you go in the New Testament, what's that, Romans, where Apostle Paul kind of bashes gays more than anything.
Right.
I say gay people more than anything. And my sister, I have a sister. I mean, I don't want to badmouth her right now because she irritates me. But she went forward with hating gays. She hates gays so much she made national news. She was actually fired from Macy's in San Antonio for discriminating against a transgender, and it made national news. It was that bad.
How did something like that affect you? I know it affected you because that was your sister, but did it hurt you personally for something like that?
It conflicted me because, for one, she could have went about that differently, but because Yes, she's doing her job. It was a guy, but he wasn't dressed in drag. He just went into the ladies' changing room. So,
Oh,
if I'm working there and I see a man go into the ladies' dressing room and I don't know that he's,
yeah.
trans, I'm gonna be like,
Honestly,
hey,
I would have said something too because of the rules of a lot of people when I used to work at Macy's too, so I know what the rules
okay.
are. Yeah, I know what the rules are. So that's something that you would go to him about when it comes to stealing and things like that. But did
Right.
she took it beyond that?
She I wish I had the links. Most of the links are dead and they're all on LGBT websites. And there's this transgender, I forget his name. He talks about it on his YouTube page. Like, it's still over YouTube. You just can't find the ABC article. The ABC article is the best article that they have because they
Okay.
have, they're interviewing my sister, but it's the thing is when she approached the guy, he's totally flamboyant and all that stuff, and he had dresses in his hands. He was gonna try dresses on and stuff like that. And instead of her calling her supervisor, she started quoting scriptures. She started bashing.
Oh, yeah, that's wrong.
So they fired her because Macy's is pro LGBTQ. But she got many awards from it, from different churches. Fox News recognized her, so she feels like a hero.
Of course, Fox.
She feels like a freaking hero. But I'm like, you're very hateful, and this is ridiculous. Until this day, she hates homosexuals. And it's ridiculous. But and I blame I'm sorry, I blame my parents because they were the ones who were more adamant about telling us that homosexuals aren't people. I mean,
Right.
you can quote me on this. They basically said homosexuals aren't people. They are demons in human bodies, and doing when they get raptured away, we don't have to deal with them no more. This was
Right.
taught to me over and over, and I was just conflicted by that. And so when I was in the workplace, when I was 18 years old and I would see gay people, my mind, I'd be like, well, my parents said that those aren't really people. They're just demons in bodies, It's a terrible way. You don't teach that to your children.
And you should have said, and what exactly does a demon look like?
I didn't even question it, but it's terrible to teach your kids that because it's no different than the Ku Klux Klan. Can't say that word right. The KKK
Right.
teaching their kids that black people aren't human beings. It's the same thing, and it's just till this day, my mom, she still bashes gay people. When I'm on the phone, well, they aren't people. Or I have some cousins that that are swing both ways. She was like, well, so and so, she got that gay spirit in her. And I'd be like, Mom, not this conversation again.
Right. Right.
I just cut her off because it's terrible. But you know what? And you probably know this, the Black community is very homophobic.
And we were going to get into that. We were going to get into that question.
Okay.
You little ahead of me.
Okay, gotcha. No, but I
before we get into that one, I wanted to ask you, just go back a little bit. You said your aha moment was when the guy approached you and challenged you to do research. Had you already been thinking before then, or was he?
but I was afraid. I was scared because there's many scriptures in the Bible that tells you that I can't quote them exactly, but it would say the devil would come to you, in a person of light, and it would deceive you, and human knowledge is foolishness to God,
Right.
So if you hear something that's not from a Christian perspective, it's of the devil, and you shouldn't listen to it. And probably heard this in church sermons over and over, but I'm like, well, what if he's right? What if, and like, I was afraid because how they say God can read your mind?
Right.
But I'm like, well, what if God is wrong? And when I said that, I was conflicted. I was scared shitless.
Mm-hmm.
But that kept, knocking at me. What if God is wrong? So that's when I went into, as a Christian, I went and rebelled, as far as, listening to what the Bible says. I'm like, well, I'm going to find out, So the more I found out, I got angry. And I was like, well, if God exists, he's a fucking douchebag.
Right. Right. And I would say that you're very brave too, because a lot of people, they wind up staying in religions because of not only their family, but because of what you said, being afraid. So you were able to overcome that and go on and proceed to do your research.
It wasn't easy, because once you tell us, a religious family member, they freak out. They be like, no, fam, no, that's not right. No, you're just angry. But the thing is, I am angry.
Right.
But it's like, you're angry at God. I'm like, I'm angry at the idea that all this time, probably we've been lied to. We go to church, they make us, was it the altar? When you go to the walk up to the altar, you pray, you
altar
cry.
Call. Yeah,
altar call. It's ridiculous, and they just make you giddy, all emotional, because like you probably watch porn and you feel bad about it.
Right. Guilty conscious.
Yes, and I hated that, and I was like, all this fucking time, and then when we went to Christian camp, oh my God, that's even worse.
So you were one of the ones who went to Christian camp? How was that experience?
That's even worse. That's even worse, because, you got all these adults, making kids feel crappy about themselves. That's all it is.
Yeah.
And they're like free. It's like a cult. It's all it is. It's a cult. It was like Christianity isn't a cult. It's like the purest of religions. So I'm like, no, it's not. It's a cult.
Right. If you look up the definition of a cult.
And there was, what was this thing called? Revival. It was like a revival thing for teens, and it was at youth service. Youth service like from ages 12 to 21, and basically everybody's supposed to speak in tongues. And I'm like worshiping, and my eyes are open. I'm looking around, and I can see my sister speaking in tongues, and I'm like, what the fuck?
You said, did she practice this?
And I knew some of them were faking, but my sisters, they looked like they were genuinely into that. Like one of my sisters, she was like speaking in tongues, and she was crying, and I'm like, okay, something's wrong. And that's when I that was like the last time I went to church, because I'm like, this is not right. I'm not feeling it. Something's wrong. That was the last time I went to church.
Okay, so you did touch bases on the Black community and religion. Why do you think that it's so strong? A lot of times it seems a lot stronger in the Black community, but I've seen a lot of evangelicals who are just as bad. But why do you think it's so strong in the Black community, especially since you said you were in the South and they were trying to explain to you that the Bible was written and it helped the Christians keep slaves? Why do you think that even though that happened, Blacks are still holding strong to their religion?
I think because it goes back to the slavery roots of how, when the slave masters gave us a church and they stopped watching over them, and they were able to build a community within the church.
Right.
And I think that they're holding on to those roots, which is fine. Yeah, they had somewhere to teach their children. They didn't have to worry about, master coming over and watching them. They had their own community, and, it became traditional, and they just kept bringing the traditions down instead of, becoming rational thinkers and be like, this is bullshit. I would have used the church as means to let's get the fuck out of this lifestyle,
right.
But a lot of Black people just held on to that. And, most slave masters told, the slaves that, you're just on this earth for a short time. And when you die, you're going to go to paradise. And a lot of them believe that stuff because that's the only hope that they had anyway. But, you know, and that's why I keep telling people, I think Frederick Douglass wasn't really a Christian, because that last quote I read, you know, when he said that, when he prayed for his feet and he walked, something like that. I got to find that scripture. I mean, not scripture, the quote that he made. Because it's like he was just fed up, you know, with everything, especially when it came to slavery. But I think that's the only reason why Black people hold on deeply, because of, you know, those traditional roots of how, you know, they used the church as solace, you know, in harsh times. I mean, I can't imagine. I don't want to imagine what it was like for our ancestors, you know, during that time. You know, I would be pissed, you know. But do you know who Jeremiah Kamara is? He did a documentary called Slave Sermons.
I have seen a few of his documentaries. I have some of his links on my website, secularminority.com. So yeah, I'm a fan of his. I'm a big fan of his. He's on YouTube as well.
Yeah, I don't know if he's doing any more videos. Not the documentary Slave Sermons. I forgot the name of that documentary he did. It was like, but it was focusing on the Black community and the church and all that stuff. And you know, he goes deep into the history of that stuff. And I just wish that, you know, Black people would take heed to that, because when I was a Christian, I was watching his stuff, you know, and I was offended by it. But it also made me question a lot of things too, you know.
Right.
So I just think that Black Americans, specifically the Southerns, just don't think about it. They don't want to give it up. They just know that going to church, you know, is soulful. You know, they have somewhere as a community, you know, they think that, you know, this God, you know, is going to give them whatever. I don't know. I mean, I've seen my parents struggle for years, but, you know, they would be like, well, only God knows. Only God knows. I'm like, seriously? Like, why can't we just, you know, sit here and think about a certain situation? Oh, well, only God knows.
Yeah, they seem, when I say they, I mean, you know, Christian community, but they put a lot of emphasis on prayer and God being able to show you the way instead of actually thinking of a solution.
That's the thing, and that was my parents, and that's, you know, my aunts, my uncles, you know, they just totally rely on God for everything. And that's why I made that tweet. I'm watching this Black comedy movie on Netflix, and I'm trying to enjoy it, but it's like every second this lady keeps bringing Jesus' scriptures.
When you said that, I was like, yes, I always talk about this. Like, I mentioned that too in a tweet yesterday, because I had finally sat down and I watched Orange is the New Black. Never seen it before. Started from season 1. And I was getting so mad because I'm like, they are just so prejudiced and against LGBTQ community. There was only one trans in there, and they put her in abomination. You know what I mean? And I was like,
yeah,
that's not how you treat a human being. Somebody who's breathing, who they always tell you, you never burn your bridges. Why would you hurt somebody else that could potentially be a help to you or an ally to you?
Exactly.
It doesn't make sense.
Right. Yeah, it's terrible. And you know, even though that's a TV show, in New Orleans, it has a very high homicide rate of transgenders getting killed, getting slain. Like the percentage, like it's not talked about in the mainstream, but you know, if you go online, and a lot of Black LGBT communities talk about how Black male trans are slain because, you know, New Orleans has a great population of Black people, and you know, our trans brothers are getting killed, and you know, nobody cares.
Right.
You know?
Right.
And yeah, I love the narrative of Black Lives Matters, but you know, they do need to talk more about, you know, Black trans, you know, their lives matter. You know, there was a Black trans that got beat up in a Black Lives Matter protest. You know, it was ridiculous, you know.
Yeah, I did a video on that when I talked about All Lives Matter, and I and I, brought up about the trans. So yeah, I'm aware of that one too. And it's very sad to say that even though um, everybody is trying to go for a greater cause, when they say Black Lives Matter, it's a phrase trying to make people know that we matter as well as everyone else. Within our community, they still act like trans doesn't matter, and it's wrong.
Oh, they hate like even like on Facebook. Some of the people that I used to follow that I thought were cool, they're so transphobic, they're so homophobic. I don't know if you're in Black atheist groups on Facebook, which are the worst. They're just terrible, They hate gay people and they say the worst things about them. And this guy was like, well, I don't believe in God, but I just think that gay people or trans people, they're going to stop population. I'm like, seriously, are you going to go with that terrible claim?
Right. Yeah, I left Facebook a long time ago.
It's healthy. Yeah, and it's so snowflakey. But I keep in contact with my family members, people from high school on my Facebook. And I have like a video game group. It's only like 50 members in there. So that's why I'm still on Facebook. But if I watch Facebook every day, I would lose my mind.
Right.
Because, like it's so transphobic. Most of the Black groups are still against gay people. And I don't understand. I'm like, come on, it's 2020.
Right, right.
The worst year ever. But it's 2020. Like, get over it. Like, Black Lives Matters. Let's talk about Black trans. Let's talk about Black, homosexuals, bisexual, lesbians, whatever. Let's talk about how, they matter. Somebody made a statement. They said if what's the name of the guy who died where the cop was on his neck? That's every Black guy we can probably think of.
Floyd.
Somebody said if George Floyd was a transgender, would have made news, or what Black people would have cared, and nobody could answer that question.
Wow.
I know, it was like there was like a hesitation, and only the women was like, yeah, but the Black guys were like, they didn't answer. Nobody.
But we've really been saying the same thing about women as well. Breonna Taylor didn't really get that much talked about until after the Floyd incident.
No, I knew hers was before his.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then when people talk about women who has been killed by the police or hurt by the police, they only bring up 2, and it's like a whole list of women. Yeah, there's a whole list of women.
Yeah, it's terrible. I mean, it's scary because that's the thing. And I know on Twitter, we have a white following too, and that's perfectly fine. But what kills me, and I know I might lose followers for this, there's a white silence on Twitter as far as our atheist friends. There's a silence, and they don't say nothing. And it pisses me off. I mean, there's a few that chime in. It was like, I'm with you, sister. We're in this together.
Yeah. But a couple have come out this year, but what about the years before this one?
Yes. And it's that white silence that's, that kind of irritates me, because I would vent sometimes and I would only get like maybe a few likes. 2,000 followers is nothing. But I'm like, out of those 2,000 followers, let me post a picture with blonde hair and I get like probably 1,000 likes. Let me say something about a situation where a Black person is slain, I'll probably get like 10 likes.
Right.
Seriously. And it annoys me. And I've lost a lot of white friends because, they don't know what white privilege is, or systemic racism, or they pretending, or they don't care.
Yeah, and I think a lot of them don't understand what it means either, because a lot of them will say, "Well, I wasn't born rich, and you can't say I have privilege," and you're like, "It doesn't have anything to do with money."
That's classism. That's what I keep telling them. I said, you can't confuse classism, what we're talking about. And he's like, well, I'm poor. Yeah, we're talking about classism. Yeah, we all fall into those categories. You're the poor white person, and there's probably a rich white person that sees you as garbage. That's classism. That has
Right.
nothing to do with, white privilege. It's
Right.
like you have a privilege and you have that advantage, and you just don't realize it because you can't see our point of view. And it's hard to explain that to them. And there's some people where I just cut them off because they just feel that, well, if you work hard for what you want, you can, you'll be respected.
And then that's when you should show those videos that go viral when you have people who literally say, why are you treating me like a black person?
Wow.
That's guilt. Yeah, I saw someone where this gentleman was pulled over by the police. They pulled his arm and roughed him up, and he said, why are you treating me like a black person?
Whoa.
So you know what's going on, you just don't care.
I've had some arguments on Twitter where a guy, he recognizes privilege. He says, so what, I'm privileged, you mad? I'm like,
no, not mad. We just want human rights, basic human rights.
But these are the same arguments our grandparents and great-great-grandparents been having, Basically, we're having the same argument where we want justice, and their rebuttal is that if you work hard and do the right thing, then you'll be respected. No, it doesn't work like that. 2 weeks ago, I got a ticket in Phoenix. Goddamn cop was tailgating me in a Dodge Caravan.
Wow.
An unmarked vehicle. And, when people do that, I just change lanes so they can stop following me. So he, I changed lanes too many times. So
right.
That he gave me a improper lane change ticket. I didn't want to argue with him because I didn't want to die.
Because if he wasn't following you, you would have changed lanes.
If it was a regular cop car, I can tell, but he's in an unmarked vehicle. He's driving a Dodge Caravan out of all vehicles. He was getting mad because I kept asking permission. I was like, because I had my hands on the wheel. I'm talking to him like I'm keeping my composure. My hands are shaking a little bit. I said, permission to grab my purse because it's on the floor. Go ahead, ma'am. Okay, I'm going to go in my purse. Go ahead, ma'am. Okay, I need to go into my glove box. He said, ma'am, you don't have to keep asking permission. I said, I'm sorry, sir. And I kept asking permission. He was getting upset.
And that's a good thing because if he had a cam on, which he probably didn't because it's Phoenix. Because it's Phoenix. But if he had had his cam on, it would have been recorded that you did ask if something happened.
Right.
And they get irritated when that happens, but they act like they don't understand why that's happening.
I'm not taking a chance. Some people was like, well, you have your rights. I'm like, yeah,
we don't.
this, and
right.
There's like, some people will be like, you guys are always about race. I said, because it is about race. Let's just be obvious. It's about
and for
race.
Somebody to say that they don't understand.
They don't understand, and that's the thing, they don't understand. And the offense is just, I read this book called White Fragility. I don't know if you read it.
I have not.
You have to read it.
Okay.
If you have audiobook, I can literally send it to you for free, but I can only do it one time,
Okay. Yeah, I have audio. I have two books now that I'm in the middle of.
I don't have time to read stuff, so I just listen to it because, I'm always driving. But
right.
Basically, white fragility is basically them, getting upset because they think that we're trying to make them feel guilty. We're not making, white people feel guilty. All we're saying is, here's a problem, an ongoing problem, and it's not going away. And we need you guys to wake up. I'm going to use the term woke. We need y'all to be woke and see what we deal with, understand our plight. And they don't understand our plight.
Now,
they just
on that one, I think I could kind of understand, because if I was not Black and I saw all of this coming at me at one time, it would be overwhelming. So I do understand that. but they don't understand that as a Black person, these are things that our parents went through, grandparents, great-grandparents. If you're seeing an overwhelm, it's because you haven't done anything for all of those generations. And it's going to stop here.
Right. What's scary today is just when you see somebody on the news that got slain by the cops and it's the same color as you, and it just keeps happening over and over, and you're just wondering, will I be next one day? You know, that's my biggest fear. And I'm never afraid of cops. I want to be a police. I used to love to show cops that, you know, I watched Live PD. You know, I was a big fan of law enforcement, and to be honest, today I am, but I just don't want to do it anymore because it's, you know, because of what's going on. But, you know, the system is broken. Yeah. There's no justice. Justice is an illusion. You know, and you know, we're in this terrible season of, you know, Trumpism, and Trumpism is making it worse because now you have all of these. What was that little snot-nosed asshole with the gun that shot the people at the protest? I'm still mad about that.
And it was a Christian site that raised the money for him, and yes, you helped too.
How many more of Kyle, was it Rittenhouse or whatever his name is? How many more of him are going to pop out and use that excuse to kill people? That's what I'm afraid of. If Trump says that it's okay and that he was being a hero, how many more people are going to use that excuse to kill people?
Yeah, you know, and he called him a hero, but called the real veterans losers for losing or getting caught.
Bro, I don't, and I would like to see somebody defend Trump now because, you know, he got on Colin Kaepernick hates about kneeling, you know, in protests, you know, of police brutality, and Trump, what he said was just literally blasphemy. Yeah. So I want to hear.
I almost feel like if they had left the kneeling alone.
I know they're gonna make an excuse for him, but I'm afraid this year. November is right around the corner, and I am so afraid. I'm like, what's gonna happen? Are we gonna do another 4 years with Trump and his, you know, his Trump tards? What's gonna happen? Because I'm not saying when Biden becomes president, we're gonna still have cops killing Black people.
It's still gonna be the same thing, yeah.
But will the racists go back in their closets? You know, because, you know, when Obama was president, all the racists were in the closet. But when Trump became president, they all came out and told, you know, we got white America back. You know. Right. So I'm just afraid, but this needs to stop. This is ridiculous. You know, all these conservatives with guns. That older couple that had the guns, you know, and
turned out to be speakers. How does that qualify you to be a speaker?
Or the pillow guy. He was
right.
Anderson Cooper tore his ass up. He ripped him a new one, and I love every moment of it. But we need qualified people back in the White House, like. Everybody in the White House, well, most people, all that nepotism, you know, with Trump and his daughter and his son-in-law and all that, they are not qualified to be in the White House, and they're all racist. I mean, you saw the NBA protests and how what's his name, Jared, whatever I forget his name, saying that, you know, saying that the NBA players, you know, they're privileged to take time off. Like,
oh yeah, because they had money. I remember he said that.
It's ridiculous. But anyway, we're trailing off.
I did want to ask you about the name choice, your screen name, Ebony Skeptic. Ooh. What made you go with Skeptic? What's your definition of skeptic? And how long did it take you to actually use the word atheist?
Actually, I use atheist before skeptic.
Oh, okay.
I was the Ebony Atheist. If you look at my meme, pinned it on my Twitter page, it says Ebony Atheist.
Okay.
But atheism, for some reason, is a bad name. Nobody likes to know, oh, you're an atheist. Oh, you're an atheist. You know, And I'm like, okay, for some reason, atheist is just, pissing people off, especially the Black community. Oh, you're an atheist, or coworkers, you're an atheist. So I didn't want to affiliate with that word. I could tell people I'm an atheist, but if you're just like in your face, people, they don't even like, for one, they don't know the definition of atheism. They just think that we're evil,
Right.
So if I go by a skeptic where I question claims, I question, supernatural stuff or anything religious in general, I figure that can still fall into the atheist perspective, but it's a safe word.
Right.
Because and then you have your new atheists, and I know a lot of people get mad when I say that, but just Sam Harris, and he kind of like made atheism a little kind of negative in a way, because Sam Harris, I love his books, but he can be a little off-putting at times.
I haven't read his book yet.
His hit, I can give you the titles. The End of Fate is actually a good book to a certain point. Most of his books are good. He's good in his field, but he sucks when he goes outside that and start talking about politics, because that's when his white card starts to show. That's when his racism starts to show. And Sam Harris needs to stay out of politics in general, because he's another one that's bad. He tried to talk about Black Lives Matter, just sound like a freaking idiot from Fox News, just being racist as hell. Right. But and his whole opinion on Islam is it can come off as racist instead of him basically bashing Islam, And you have some of these atheists that are just assholes, and they will go this negative route of atheism, and it's not positive atheism. It's more negative, it's more of bullying and all that stuff. And I don't want to be a bully. When in the beginning, I was a bully. I was angry. I was the angry atheist. I was like, oh, it's a Christian post. Let me go mess with this person right quick. I was one of those atheists for a while. So I didn't want to affiliate with the word because it pisses people off. So skeptic was more of a safe word. So I'd rather be called the Ebony Skeptic, because even like on YouTube, let's say you see a Disney video and you want to comment on it, and then you would have somebody that's like, you're an atheist, why do you care about this? I got tired of that, Like, oh, you're a Black atheist? Are you a unicorn? I hate that. They act like Black atheists don't exist.
And see, that's one of the things that I'm trying to change on here as well, but I follow a lot of the Black atheists on social media, and I've heard a lot of them say the same thing, that people act like we don't exist. And that's, I think, mainly because you don't see that many, but it's plenty out here.
Oh, you know where they are? They're in the church pews.
I mean, plenty of Black atheists out here. Yeah.
And like I said, there's plenty of Black atheists, and you just have some that's at church that just don't want to come out of there. I'm like, y'all need to get y'all asses from out of that church, because you don't believe. You're like, come on, a lot of these Christians don't believe in that shit. They just there because they're traditional, cultural. They're doing it by the tradition and the cultural. They don't believe in that shit. But yeah, I'm tired of, oh, you're a unicorn. Oh, a Black atheist. I'm like, come on, bro. Because they just think that we're all religious. I know a guy whose family were always atheists. They never believed in any of that stuff. But it's just expected for, atheism to be more, Caucasian than African American, because given the history of this country, they just think that all Black people are just religious, like. Right. One guy was like, what church do you go to? I'm like, what? Like, like, are you just assuming that I just go to the church? I'm like, no, I don't go to church. Why not? Because I'm an atheist. You're an atheist? Well, what happened? What happened?
Stop believing in the bull crap, right?
When they say, oh, I'm sorry, what happened? How did you lose your faith? Reality. Hurricane Katrina, that, you know what, that was actually more of a turning point than anything. Hurricane Katrina really made me question the whole thing about God being
So were you in it in the hurricane? Were you one of the ones transported?
I came back after
Okay.
all the nonsense, but I came back a little early, so the National Guard was like, you know, you weren't supposed to be here, but we can't stop you. So they said, whatever happens, we can't really help you, you know, as far as somebody shooting at me or trying to, you know, whatever.
Oh.
Because it was kind of like, you know, you're on your own. So, you know, driving, seeing dead bodies, you know, smelling death in the air. It was pretty terrible. Talking to some of my friends that were stuck on a roof, you know.
Right.
And that was another, you know, shitty thing when you're in the South, because my friend was like, I'm on this roof, it's hot as hell. People are dying. These helicopters would come. They picked up all the white people and they left. So I don't know if you heard on the news that people were shooting at the helicopters. Well, they were shooting at the helicopters because they were trying to get their attention, because they wouldn't pick up the black people. They left most of them on the roof, and a lot of those people died. You know, it was ridiculous, you know. And I don't know. I was like, there's no way a just God exists that would allow something like this to happen.
With
And
something like that, it should have been some accountability on the state's part and the president's part.
The governor, I forget his name. He ended up in jail. I forget his name. He ended up in jail, but they kind of threw him under the bus, because it wasn't just him. It was a bunch of other people, you know, but they kind of tossed it out on him, and he ended up going to jail for it.
Okay.
I forget his name. I can't believe I forgot his name. But that was a terrible experience. Just seeing dead, bloated bodies that drowned.
Right.
You know, it was like kind of like, you know, if you're religious, you'd be like, it's like sort of a great flood event, and, you know, God got rid of all the sinners, you know, stuff like that.
Right.
And then hearing the stories of the families that died, you know, inside the roof of the houses because they couldn't get out and the water kept rising. I mean, I have, what's my friend, Melissa, she was Air Force, and they had them out checking houses. Because if you actually go back in New Orleans right now, there are abandoned neighborhoods that they're probably, you know, nobody would buy. And there's like the spray paint that has the number of people that they found and a number of people that's dead. So they would put a line at the top, the number of people that's alive, at the bottom, the dead people. And you still see that on some of the houses today.
Wow.
I know, it's terrible. You know, so that's another thing. I'm like, how can a just God allow something like this to happen? And then my family, you know, we were all separated, and that was bad, you know. And I just hated that they kept calling us refugees. I'm like, seriously, you know.
Right.
That was a terrible experience in itself. And that was like, when, if God exists, then I don't want nothing to do with him, because he sits there. I tell my friends all the time, he's a sadist. You know, I tell my atheist friends, he's a sadist. He sits there and he watches and he does nothing. And then it's like, justice is mine. I'm like, he don't fucking do nothing though.
Right.
So how can he exist if he sits there and do nothing? And then if something happens, it'd be like, you see, God is good. I'm like, no, it's called poetic justice. Like, shut the fuck up. So I was just done, you know. I'm like, I'm done with Christianity. I'm tired of that. But what I wanted to do, as far as, you know, an atheist on the internet, I was supposed to start my own podcast, but a lot of stuff happened. I just wanted, just like how you're doing, you know,
Right.
Just talk to you know, atheists of color, because we just don't see it enough. I mean, I love the atheist experience and all. And, you know, we had like one black guy that was on there for a while.
Right.
but he's not there no more. And I know the atheist experience is more popular than it was, like 14 years ago.
They've been out for years.
I just wish there was like a show that had more Black atheists, running, so people can, not just Black, but just people of color, people can relate to it a little bit more, so we can talk about Black problems, Black issues.
Right.
We just don't have that. And there is a Black atheist, but he's more of a hotep. I don't know. I forget his name. And like he's all over the place. I forget his name.
I'm not dropping names, but I know who you're talking about. We're not gonna start on the hoteps. I used to dabble in that too before I switched over.
Hotepism. So, yeah. I came with the hoteps. I came.
I got my badge on.
Oh my God! Wow. I came with them. I was like, isn't being hoteps don't like Black women?
Well, yeah, you learned that later.
Oh, that's another thing. When I denounced Christianity, and I still believe that there was a God, I was just trying to find anything all pro-Black, and I got into the whole Garveyism thing, with Marcus Garvey, and I listened to Umar Johnson, his fake ass,
Exactly.
But I'm past that phase. Those dudes there, they just like those televangelists. They sell you lies and they don't give you anything in return.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
So I don't want to hold you too long because it's almost an hour. But I wanted to ask you this one thing before I let you go. For other younger people who are also questioning like you did, what kind of encouragement would you give to them? What do you wish that someone would have told to you that maybe you could tell to them?
The only thing I can say is question everything, even when it appears as if you can't get out of a certain situation or, you're the black sheep. But if you hear something that's opposing, to a belief you're in, maybe you should wonder if that claim is true. We're in an age of information, and that's what I love about technology and science. All this, when my friend who was being douchey to me about saying Jesus didn't exist, I was like, why does he keep saying that? It just kept coming.
Yeah, it made you curious.
Yeah, so curiosity is good. Doubting is good. As a Christian, doubting is bad. We hear the story of the doubting Thomas and how, they try to seem as if he was the bad guy, or what's his name, Nicodemus, how he questioned Jesus. It's like Christianity makes doubting so bad, and doubting, it's a form of skepticism. You're questioning. And I know it's not easy to tell a Christian that you should doubt, because it was like, how dare you? But that's planting the seed to get to, to be rational, to follow logic, and yeah, they're going to be afraid, of course, because they believe in this God, and this God, he's, follow me or die, so question everything,
Okay.
Be a skeptic.
All right, that's good advice. And if anybody wants to follow you or get in contact with you, do you have any links or where they can find you?
Oh crap. Right now I'm just more active for atheism. I'm just more active on my Twitter, my Ebony Skeptic page. I know how to build a website, and I'm working on building a website, and when I have that, I should probably have it towards the end of the year.
Okay, that's good.
Yeah, where I have my website with my skepticism and atheism, and atheists of color, specifically, Black atheists. And I want to focus more on, female atheists, Black, atheists. We don't have enough of that.
Right.
We need that. You know how the atheist experience have their Matt Dillahunty. He stands out more than everybody else. We need one of those in the Black community. Except have our own name, have our own brand. We need one of those. We need somebody that be like, fuck this. I'm gonna say what I have to say. You're gonna just like it. We need that. We really do.
All right. Well, thank you for joining me once again.
Oh, absolutely.
This has been a wonderful discussion, and we have almost hit that 1 hour mark. I'm going to leave your links down below in the description box of not only the YouTube channel, but also on the website, secularminority.com. We've come to the end of this episode. If you're not listening on the website, make sure you check out secularminority.com for show notes, links, pictures, and resources, and of course the links to the guests. Don't forget to subscribe and share. For me, Sunny Secular, you can find me on YouTube, Twitter, TikTok, and say it with me, family. I'm special, I'm smart, and I matter. Peace.
Bye.